I never thought I'd find myself in this kind of situation. My name is Jake, and I'm a 36-year-old husband and father of two. When I met Melissa, I fell head over heels. We had what I thought was a strong relationship. We dated for 3 years, got married, and had our first child, Lily, followed by our son, Evan. Life was good, or so I believed. But things started to change. The signs were there, but I chose to ignore them. It all began a few months ago. Melissa, who had always been the life of the party and the one who would plan family outings, became distant. She started spending more and more time away from home. First it was the gym for personal training, then nights out with friends. I didn't think much of it at first. After all, what was wrong with a little self-care? It was when she began to come home late with an occasional hint of alcohol on her breath that I started feeling unease. I remember one particular incident when I noticed a change in our routine. I came home one evening after work, expecting to find dinner waiting, but instead, I found the house empty. The only sign of life was a message on the fridge. Out with friends, might be late, love you. I rolled my eyes, knowing she was probably at the bar with her friends again, a place I loathed. I mean, who needs to drink to have a good time? The real blow came when I noticed a few texts on her phone while she was in the shower. I was not the type to snoop, but curiosity got the best of me. I opened her messages, and there it was, flirty exchanges with someone named Ryan. My heart raced as I read the heated messages, filled with innuendos and emojis that made it clear they were more than just friends. Ryan was not just some random guy. He was my son's martial arts instructor. My mind reeled. How could she do this to me, to our family? The discovery shattered me. I tried to shake it off, thinking maybe it was just a phase, a harmless flirtation. But I knew deep down that it was serious. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I confronted her the next day, heart pounding and fists clenched. When she came home, I didn't hold back. I yelled, "What's going on with you and Ryan?" The look on her face was a mix of shock and defiance. She opened her mouth to speak, and I braced myself for a barrage of excuses. "I can explain, Jake," she started, her voice dripping with insincerity. "It's not what you think." Right, classic denial. I wasn't buying it. She tried to tell me that it was all innocent, that Ryan was just helping her with her fitness goals and they had shared some laughs, but I could see right through her lies. I called her out, reminding her of the texts I had seen. Her story crumbled. I could see the panic in her eyes, but she quickly turned it into anger. "You're being paranoid. Why would I cheat on you?" I felt betrayed not only by her actions but by her blatant refusal to admit the truth. The confrontation left me feeling hollow, angry, and lost. My wife was lying to my face, and I could do nothing but stand there, feeling the weight of the betrayal crash over me like a tidal wave. So there I was, emotionally torn apart by the woman I loved and trusted. I knew I had to make a decision about how to move forward. This was not just about me. It was about our children and the family we had built together. But how could I look at her the same way again? How could I continue in a marriage that was founded on deceit? As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I knew I was at a crossroads, and it terrified me. But what was I going to do? The old me would have crumbled and begged for her forgiveness. But the new me, I could feel a change brewing inside. I was tired of being the victim. I wanted to fight back, not just for my pride, but for my children and my own sense of self-worth. After that day, I entered a dark phase where I was constantly on edge. I'd watch her as she moved about the house, her laughter feeling hollow and fake. I knew she was hiding something, and the thought of her betrayal clung to me like a bad smell. I tried to keep things normal for the kids, but every smile felt forced, and every family dinner felt like a performance. Inside, I was raging, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to take control of the situation. I spent countless nights replaying everything in my head. I thought about the signs, the late nights, the secrets, the lies. It was all too much to bear. In those moments of despair, I found myself packing the living room, trying to figure out how I could regain my footing. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew I couldn't just sit back and let this slide. I needed a plan, not just to confront her again, but to redefine myself along the way. One day, while dropping Lily and Evan off at martial arts class, I spotted Ryan in the corner of my eye, chatting with some parents. The sight of him made my blood boil. I wanted to confront him, to make him feel the same pain I was feeling, but I reminded myself that he wasn't the only person at fault. Melissa had chosen to betray me. Still, I felt a rush of adrenaline, a burning desire to retaliate. In some way, I decided to channel all this energy into something productive, getting back into shape and finding some discipline. I signed up for martial arts classes at a nearby dojo, not just for fitness but to reclaim my confidence. I figured if she thought she could get away with cheating on me, I'd show her that I could also stand strong and take charge. The idea of becoming a black belt and moving on became my mantra. The first few classes were grueling. I had to push myself harder than I ever had before. I was surrounded by people half my age and it felt humiliating at times. But with each kick and punch I felt a release, like I was shedding the weight of the betrayal. The instructors were tough, demanding discipline and respect, and I found solace in the focus of martial arts. It wasn't just about fighting, it was about finding strength within myself. As the weeks went by, I transformed. The physical training was hard, but it was also liberating. I learned to control my anger, to breathe through my frustrations, and to channel that energy into something productive. I found myself looking forward to classes, enjoying the camaraderie that developed as I trained alongside my peers. I was lifting weights, sweating it out on the mats, and slowly I was building confidence, not just in my body but in my mind as well. I started to feel empowered, and with that empowerment came clarity. I began to reflect on my relationship with Melissa and the cycle of abuse in our marriage. I understood that while I had been wronged, I also had a part in this. I let her take the reins and I let my feelings be secondary to her whims. No more. I wasn't going to be a passive participant in my own life. With each class, I also started to think about how to confront Melissa again. This time, it wouldn't be about begging for answers. It would be about standing tall and asserting my worth. I knew that I wanted to understand her motivations, to hear her out again, but I also wanted to lay down the law. I would not tolerate dishonesty and infidelity, not now and not ever. The turning point came one evening after class. I was feeling particularly strong. The sense of accomplishment washed over me as I walked into the house. Melissa was already home and I could see she was trying to play the part of the dutiful wife. She smiled and asked how class went. Instead of the usual banter, I cut to the chase. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. Her demeanor shifted instantly and I could see that she knew no good would come from this conversation. I could feel my heart racing, but instead of panic, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. I was ready for this. "About what?" she replied, crossing her arms defensively. "About you and Ryan. I've given it a lot of thought and I need to know why." She opened her mouth to respond, but I raised my hand to stop her. "I don't want excuses. I want honesty. I want to understand how you could betray me like this." The look in her eyes told me I had her on the back foot. There was a flicker of fear, but also the usual defiance. She started her rehearsed lines, but this time I wasn't listening to the same old crap. I cut her off and said, "If you want this marriage to work, it starts with honesty. I deserve that much." Melissa hesitated. The silence lingered and I could see her weighing her options. It felt like a pivotal moment and I was ready to stand my ground. I would no longer be the husband who stood by while his wife lied and cheated. I was ready to fight for my dignity and self-worth, and I wasn't backing down. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating. I could see Melissa's mind racing as she processed my ultimatum. Her expression shifted from defiance to something that resembled guilt. It was a flicker, but it was there. I could almost feel the walls she had built around herself beginning to crack. "Jake, she started, but I interrupted her again. "No, let me finish. I need you to understand something. I've been angry, hurt, and confused, but I refuse to be the fool in this relationship any longer. You have to be honest with me, and we need to have a real conversation about what happened with Ryan." Her eyes darted away, and I could see her battling with herself. I could almost hear the internal dialogue. Should she confess or should she keep lying? I stood firm, waiting for her to respond, hoping that just maybe she'd find the courage to come clean. She took a deep breath and finally spoke. "It started off innocent, Jake. I swear it did. He was just helping me with my workouts. I was feeling really down about myself, after the kids. I didn't think it would go this far. I was lonely. Lonely. That word struck a chord. I had been so wrapped up in my job and the demands of parenting that I hadn't noticed how isolated she felt. But that didn't justify her actions. Loneliness doesn't mean you get to betray your partner, Melissa. If you felt neglected, you should have talked to me instead of seeking comfort elsewhere. She opened her mouth to argue, but then seemed to realize I wasn't going to back down. "You're right, I should have talked to you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But it felt so good to get attention from someone else. It was like a drug. I didn't want to feel all those things, sadness, neglect. I wanted to feel desired, Jake. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of compassion for her. But then I recalled the way she had lied in the betrayal that had cut me deeply. Desire is not an excuse for infidelity. I want you to understand how this has shattered our family. Our kids deserve better than this. I deserve better than this. The room was quiet, save for the sound of her soft sobs. I had been prepared for anger, for denial, but I had not anticipated her tears. I felt a pang of sympathy, but I quickly squashed it down. This wasn't about her tears, this was about the damage she had caused. "I want us to work on this, but it's going to take time and it's going to take effort from both of us. I need you to show me that you're serious about making this right," I said, my voice steady. "I want to see real change. If we're going to move forward, you have to cut ties with Ryan completely." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I'll do it, I promise. I'll text him tonight." "I do want to lose you, Jake. I'm so sorry for what I did." Her words felt hollow, but I needed to give her a chance. I also knew that I had to set boundaries. You can't just apologize and think it's over. We need to work on our communication and rebuild the trust that has been shattered. With that, the tension in the room began to loosen, but I still felt a knot in my stomach. Could I trust her again? Would she actually follow through? The path ahead felt murky, but I was determined to try. After a long, exhausting conversation, we agreed to see a marriage counselor. I thought that might help us navigate the choppy waters ahead. It was a step, at least. As the days passed, I focused on my martial arts training as a way to deal with the emotional fallout. The dojo became my sanctuary, a place where I could channel my anger, my confusion, and my desire for strength into something tangible. Each kick, each punch was a cathartic release. At times, I even found myself smiling when I was sparring with my classmates, enjoying the camaraderie and the sense of achievement that came with mastering new techniques. While I was working on myself, I also kept a close watch on Melissa. It wasn't about distrust, it was about self-preservation. I noticed her behavior shifting. She was more attentive to the kids, and she made an effort to reconnect with me. We started to share small moments together, like cooking dinner and laughing at the kids' antics, but there was always a lingering tension beneath the surface. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were both walking on eggshells, trying to navigate this new dynamic. One evening, after a particularly grueling session at the dojo, I returned home to find Melissa waiting for me with a serious look on her face. My heart raced. I wasn't sure what to expect. She had obviously been crying again, and I braced myself for an emotional conversation. "Jake, I texted Ryan," she said, her voice shaky. "I told him I can't see him anymore. I don't want to hurt you ever again." The admission sent a rush of relief through me, but I didn't want to get too comfortable. "What did he say?" I asked, trying to keep my emotions in check. "He was upset, but he understood. He said he didn't want to come between us. He thought we were really great together." The words stung. Even in his apology, there was an implication that he'd gotten too close to my wife. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that this was part of the process. "I appreciate you doing that, but I need you to be honest about everything. No more secrets." She nodded, and I could see the sincerity in her eyes. "I'm done hiding, Jake. I want to make this work. I'll do whatever it takes." As we talked, I felt a shift in our dynamic. There was a mix of fear, hope, and determination in the air. It was a fragile truce, but it was a step toward healing. I wanted to believe that we could rebuild our marriage, but I was still haunted by the betrayal. In the following days, we attended our first counseling session. The counselor was compassionate, and I felt like she understood our situation. As we talked about our feelings, I began to see the cracks in our relationship more clearly. It was as if the fog that had clouded my vision was starting to lift. What I didn't expect was to realize that Melissa and I had both been struggling in our own ways. I had been so focused on my pain that I had overlooked her suffering. It didn't excuse her actions, but it was a relief to understand the complexity of our relationship. This was the beginning of a new chapter for us, one filled with hard work and open communication. I was determined to keep pushing myself physically and emotionally, embracing the journey of healing. I wanted to reclaim my life, not just for myself but for my children and for the possibility of a better future with Melissa. The road ahead was uncertain, but I felt a newfound strength bubbling within me. I was ready to embrace the challenge, to become a black belt not just in martial arts, but in moving on from the past. As the weeks turned into months, I immersed myself in the martial arts world. It wasn't just about physical fitness anymore. It was a way of life. The dojo had become my sanctuary, a place where I could sweat out my frustrations and learn discipline. In every class, I was surrounded by a community of supportive individuals who, unknowingly, helped me rebuild my self-esteem. I found that with every new technique I mastered, I was also mastering my emotions, a transformative experience. Melissa and I continued our counseling sessions, and to my surprise, I found solace in talking about our marriage. The sessions forced us to confront our issues, and while it was uncomfortable at times, it was necessary. She was genuinely trying, cooking dinner more often, being more involved with the kids, and even surprising me on occasion with thoughtful gestures. She took a week off work to spend time with the family, and it felt like a fresh start. One evening, as we sat on the couch after putting the kids to bed, I reflected on how far we had come. The atmosphere felt lighter, like some of the tension had dissipated. "You know, I never thought we'd be sitting here like this again," I said, glancing at her. "I didn't think so either," she admitted, her eyes filled with sincerity. "I know I messed up, Jake. I'm grateful you're giving me another chance. Let's just take it one day at a time. We're both still healing." I replied, feeling the weight of the past lift just a little more. But then there were moments when doubt crept in like an unwelcome shadow. I couldn't shake the feeling that Melissa's past infidelity lingered in the air between us. I had forgiven her in theory, but in practice, it was harder. I found myself questioning her every move, every late night, every phone call. It wasn't healthy, and I realized I needed to address it. One night after class, I came home later than usual, feeling energized from sparring with my peers. But as soon as I walked through the door, I sensed that something was off. Melissa was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, and she immediately looked up at me with wide eyes. "Hey, how was class?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but there was a tension in her voice. "Good. Just working on some new techniques," I replied, trying to shake off the unease. But something about her demeanor made my instincts flare up. "Just got off the phone with my mom," she said, but the way she said it felt rehearsed. I couldn't help but feel a pit of dread forming in my stomach. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my voice steady, but inside I was unraveling. "Yeah, everything is fine, really, just catching up," she replied. I knew it was wrong to jump to conclusions, but I couldn't help it. I felt like I was back in that dark place of paranoia. "Melissa, if you're hiding something, I need you to tell me." Her expression shifted from defensive to hurt. "Why do you think I'm hiding something? I thought we were past this." I took a deep breath, reminding myself that communication was key. "I'm sorry. I don't want to be that guy who suspects everything, but the trust was broken and it's hard to let go." She nodded, her eyes welling with tears. "I know I messed up, Jake. I can't change the past. I want to move forward with you, but it's hard when I feel like you're still holding my mistakes over my head." I felt the weight of her words, and I knew she was right. I was still trapped in my own cycle of hurt and suspicion. "I don't want to make this harder for you. I just need to work on my trust issues." We talked it out, and after a long emotional conversation, we agreed to work on rebuilding trust together. I realized that while I had been focusing on her actions, I needed to take a hard look at my own insecurities and fears. The next day at the dojo, I had a breakthrough. During a sparring session, my instructor noticed that I was distracted. "Jake, what's going on? You seem off your game today," he said. his voice steady but concerned. "Just dealing with some personal stuff," I replied, trying to shake it off. He paused, then said, "You know, part of martial arts is about mental strength as much as physical strength. If you're distracted, you need to figure out how to let it go. You can't control everything outside the dojo, but you can control how you react to it." Those words hit me hard. I realized that I had been trying to control my emotions instead of confronting them head-on. The fear of losing Melissa again was consuming me. I had to learn to let go and trust, both in her and in myself. That evening, I sat down with Melissa after the kids were asleep. "I want to be honest about my feelings," I said, looking straight into her eyes. "I'm scared. I'm scared of losing you again, and I think that fear has been affecting how I treat you." "I understand, Jake," she said gently. "I'm scared too, but we're in this together, and I want to show you that I'm committed to working on our marriage. I'm not going anywhere." As we spoke, I felt a spark of hope. It wasn't an instant fix, but it was a step in the right direction. We began to set aside time for date nights, reconnecting in a way that had been missing for so long. We laughed, reminisced about our early days together, and slowly I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crumble. But the real test came when I saw Ryan again. It was unexpected and unsettling. I had taken the kids to the park on a Saturday afternoon, and as we were playing, I spotted him walking toward us. My heart sank, and I felt a surge of anger mixed with anxiety. "Jake," he called out, his voice casual as if everything was normal. I froze, unsure of how to react. "Ryan," I replied curtly, my body tense. "Hey, I just wanted to check in on Lily's progress in class. She's doing great, by the way," he said, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I forced a smile, but I could feel my fists clenching. "Thanks," I said, trying to keep my cool. He looked over at the kids playing on the swings, and for a moment I felt a rush of protective instinct. "Listen, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for everything that happened between me and Melissa. I never meant to come between you two." I stared at him, my heart racing. I wanted to lash out, to tell him how much he had hurt me, but I remembered the lessons I had learned in the dojo. I needed to be strong, not just physically, but mentally. "Just stay away from her," I said firmly, my voice low. "I want to make things work with my family." He nodded, and I could see a hint of respect in his eyes. "I understand, I won't bother you guys again. Good luck with everything." As he walked away, a wave of relief washed over me. I had stood my ground and asserted my boundaries. I realized that as long as I focused on my own growth and the work I was doing with Melissa, I could overcome this. That evening, I shared my encounter with Melissa. I ran into Ryan at the park. I told her, watching her reaction closely. Her expression shifted to one of concern. "What happened?" "I set some boundaries. I told him to stay away from us," I replied, feeling a sense of pride in my words. Melissa reached out to take my hand. "Thank you for standing up for us. It means a lot to me." That moment felt pivotal, a sign that we were both committing to this journey together. I knew the road ahead would be bumpy, trust wouldn't rebuild overnight, but I was ready for whatever came next. I had learned to rely on my strength, both physical and emotional, and I was determined to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Together, we would fight for our marriage and our family. As spring turned into summer, our family dynamics continued to shift. The warm weather brought new opportunities for bonding, and we took advantage of it. Weekend outings became a regular occurrence, with picnics in the park, visits to the zoo, and family movie nights. Each moment felt like a small victory, a step toward healing the wounds of the past. Melissa and I both committed to our counseling sessions, and I opened up about my ongoing struggle with trust. I had made progress, but the ghost of her infidelity still lingered in my mind. I wanted to believe she was committed to changing, but the memories of her betrayal were hard to shake off. During one session, our counselor suggested an exercise. We would write down our fears and insecurities, then share them with each other. It felt vulnerable, but I knew it was necessary. That night, as I sat at the kitchen table, my heart raced. I began to write, pouring my feelings onto the page. I wrote about my fear of inadequacy, my worry that I had failed as a husband. I admitted my anxiety about losing her again and how difficult it was for me to trust her. Fully, it felt cathartic to admit my weaknesses, to shine a light on the dark corners of my mind. When I shared my list with Melissa, I watched her face soften. "Jake, I had no idea you felt this way," she said, her eyes glistening with empathy. "I've been struggling with my own fears too. I'm afraid that I might never regain your trust, and I hate that I hurt you." Her honesty pierced through the wall I had built around my heart. I realized that we were both navigating this rocky terrain together, each carrying our own burdens. We were learning to be vulnerable with each other again, and that was a powerful step forward. In the following weeks, we continued to work on our communication. We developed a habit of checking in with each other daily, asking about our feelings and discussing our relationship openly. It wasn't always easy, but it became a lifeline for us. One day, as we were sitting in the backyard, enjoying a barbecue with the kids, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over everything, and I watched as Melissa laughed, with Lily and Evan, their giggles filling the air. It was moments like these that reminded me of why I had chosen to fight for our family. But just as we were finding our footing, Ryan resurfaced in a way I hadn't anticipated. I received a call from him while I was at work. I almost didn't answer it, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hey, Jake," he said, his tone calm. "I just wanted to reach out and apologize again for everything that happened. I've been thinking a lot about it, and I realize how much damage I caused." I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to lash out. "What do you want, Ryan?" I asked, my voice steady but firm. "I wanted to let you know that I'm leaving the dojo. I don't want to cause any further issues between you and Melissa. I honestly didn't mean for anything to happen, and I hope you can forgive me one day," he said, sincerity lacing his words. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to tell him off, to remind him of the pain he had caused. But another part of me recognized the importance of letting go. "I appreciate you saying that," I replied. "I think it's best for everyone involved." As we hung up, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. Ryan's departure from our lives marked a turning point, an opportunity for Melissa and me to continue rebuilding without his presence looming over us. Later that evening, I shared the conversation with Melissa. "He's leaving the dojo," I said, gauging her reaction. She looked relieved. "That's a good step, Jake. It's one less reminder, one less distraction. I want us to focus on our family." "Me too," I replied, feeling a sense of unity in our shared goal. With Ryan out of the picture, we were able to put more energy into nurturing our relationship. We made a concerted effort to reconnect. We planned a weekend getaway, a chance to escape from our daily routines and rediscover each other. As we drove to the cabin in the woods, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The last time we had taken a trip together, it had been tainted by her betrayal. But this time, I felt hopeful. I wanted to focus on creating new memories, ones that would overshadow the hurt of the past. When we arrived, the air was crisp and fresh. We settled into the cozy cabin, enjoying the peaceful surroundings. That evening, as we sat by the fireplace, I looked over at Melissa. She seemed lighter, happier. "Thank you for doing this," I said, sincerity in my voice. "I really needed this time with you." "Me too, Jake. I've missed us," she replied, her eyes meeting mine with warmth. We spent the weekend hiking, cooking together, and sharing stories under the stars. It felt like a rebirth of our relationship, a chance to start fresh. We talked about our dreams and fears, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a genuine connection with her. On our last night, as we sat together on the porch, the world around us was tranquil. I turned to her, holding her hands in mine. "I want to move forward, Melissa. I want to build a stronger foundation for us." She smiled, her eyes glistening. "I do too, Jake. I'm committed to earning your trust every day. I'll never let you down again." As we embraced under the stars, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I realized that healing takes time, and while there would always be scars from the past, we were learning to navigate our way through them together. That moment marked a turning point in my journey. I understood that love isn't just about perfection. It's about resilience, forgiveness, and the willingness to fight for what truly matters. I had become a black belt in moving on, not just for myself, but for my family. And as we drove back home, I felt lighter, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Our future was uncertain, but I knew that together we could face anything. We were determined to rebuild our marriage, stronger than ever. I wanted to embrace the journey ahead with open arms, knowing that love, though tested, could still flourish against all odds. As summer transitioned into fall, the crisp air and vibrant colors mirrored the changes taking place in our lives. Each day felt like a small victory, a testament to our commitment to healing and moving forward. Melissa and I continued to nurture our relationship, making a conscious effort to prioritize our marriage and our family. Counseling sessions had become a routine we both valued. We were learning effective communication skills and ways to better understand each other's needs. It wasn't always easy, but the openness and vulnerability we practiced were strengthening our bond. I could see Melissa genuinely trying, and I felt more secure in our relationship. One evening, while we were sitting down for dinner, the kids were animatedly sharing stories from school. I looked at Melissa and a wave of gratitude washed over me. "You know," I said, "I can't remember the last time we all felt this normal." She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "It's so good to see the kids happy, isn't it? And I love that we're reconnecting as a couple too." "Yeah, it feels like a fresh start," I replied, feeling the warmth of her hand on mine. The kids finished their meals and ran off to play, leaving us alone at the table. It was in those quiet moments that I found comfort. We chatted about our plans for the weekend, discussing family outings and activities. I could see how much she wanted to make things right, and it made me feel hopeful. One weekend, we decided to take a family trip to the beach. The kids were ecstatic, and Melissa was practically glowing with excitement. As we played in the sand, building castles and splashing in the waves, I found myself laughing more than I had in a long time. It was as if the weight of the past was slowly lifting, replaced by the joy of our present. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in breathtaking hues of orange and pink, I took a moment to step back and observe my family. Lily and Evan were full of life, and Melissa's laughter rang out like music. I felt a deep sense of peace settle in my heart. That night, as we settled into our hotel room, I turned to Melissa. "You know, I never thought we could come this far after everything that happened. It feels like we're really finding our way back to each other." She nodded, her expression serious but soft. "I'm so grateful for your willingness to forgive me and to work on us. It hasn't been easy, but I believe we're stronger now. I promise I'll never take your love for granted again." I reached out to hold her hands. "I believe you. I feel like we're building a new foundation, one based on honesty and trust." As we shared our hopes for the future, I realized how far we had come. The journey had been tumultuous, filled with heartache and uncertainty, but it had also been a time of growth. I had learned that resilience isn't just about enduring pain, it's about embracing vulnerability and facing challenges together. Returning home from the beach trip, I continued my martial arts training. The discipline I had cultivated not only strengthened my body, but also my resolve. I felt empowered, not just as an individual, but as a husband and father. The confidence I had gained from training spilled over into my relationships. I was no longer the passive husband who accepted mistreatment. I was a man who understood his worth and was willing to fight for his family. As fall rolled into winter, we continued to build our life together. We decorated the house for the holidays, and the kids buzzed with excitement, their innocent joy infectious. I watched as Melissa and the children baked cookies in the kitchen, flour flying everywhere, and I couldn't help but smile. In those moments, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the second chance we had been given. We were creating new memories, ones built on love, forgiveness, and understanding. Our struggles had taught us invaluable lessons about communication and compassion. One night, as we sat by the fire, I turned to Melissa and said, "I want to thank you for everything you've done to make this work. It's not easy, but I feel it's worth it." Her eyes sparkled in the flickering light. "We've both made mistakes, Jake, but we're learning together. I'm so committed to this. I love you, and I'm so thankful we found our way back." In that moment, I realized that love isn't just a feeling. It's an action, a choice we make every day. It's about choosing to forgive, to understand, and to grow together. As the new year approached, I reflected on how far we had come. I had become a black belt in moving on, not just from the hurt, but toward a future filled with love and hope. I understood that life would continue to present challenges, but I felt prepared to face them not just as an individual but as a partner in a united front. I was ready to embrace whatever the future held. I had learned to trust again, not only in Melissa but in myself. We were a family, flawed yet beautiful, ready to tackle the world together. And in that, I found my strength, my purpose, and my unwavering commitment to love.